So could you use this guy?
Oh yeah, I think so. You just have to check the ears and the eyes mostly for maggots and other things. Check that hasn't been rained on, hasn't been wet, or doesn't smell, hasn't been there for too long, you know.
So it looks like this guy's all good.
Looks alright. We can use this.
Alright.
Let's go.
Hi, I'm Marinda and I'm a film student at Swinburne University. I've never really had a strong opinion about taxidermy, but recently it's come into vogue and that makes me want to learn more about it. Taxidermy has always been controversial, but recently it's become popular as decoration in homes and stores. What bothers me a little is if you search something like freak taxidermy into eBay, you get results from fake mutant animals like chickens with an extra head or a raven with a rabbit's head sewn on from cells in China. And this makes me wonder if they're sourcing, killing and sewing together animals to make money. But then I realise that thousands of animals every day are killed for their skin and meat, for our designer handbags and our hamburgers. And some people who feel uneasy about taxidermy may be fine with these other products. So, why is taxidermy so controversial? To find out more, I'm going to meet people who are involved with or against taxidermy. How did you get into taxidermy?
It was during my Year 12 studio arts course. My teacher said that I should do something different, so I dropped what I was doing with pencils and paints and things, and I picked up dead animals. My first piece that I did was a possum that I found on the side of the road just about 20 minutes up from my house. And that was kind of my experimental piece, which didn't go over that well. But from there I've kind of grown and done lots of things from that.
So what kind of animals do you use and where do you find them?
Mostly I use roadkill animals, such as like foxes, birds, rabbits, rats maybe, that I find on the road. I also source animals from online, like eBay, from America, from fur traders, but I never use animals that have been shot for the sole purpose of hunting or trophy hunting. Well, first we kind of make an incision down the spine. We make a hole in the skin, and then we follow that down the spine towards the tail, just to the base of the tail. So after doing the tail, we're going to skin down the scrotum to the stomach area. Be very careful not to pop anything.
Like what?
Near the stomach, like the gallbladder, because that is going to stink. And it's not very pleasant to work with then.
What do you think of like the traditional taxidermists who only mount what they shoot themselves?
I don't think of myself like them at all, really, apart from working with dead animals or corpses. I think that mounting an animal that has been shot for the sole purpose of hunting as a trophy piece doesn't respect the animal and the ethical guidelines mostly, whereas working with them like this, having lived their lives in the wild, kind of makes them more revered and keeps their natural look. We bend the leg up, right? So we can cut the membranes in between the skin and the flesh. So we kind of push that up. Now cutting up towards the arms or the front paws.
It's looking a little bloody around here.
Yeah, it gets bloody towards the head.
What would you say to people then who feel like morally opposed to taxidermy?
I'd say taxidermy isn't for everybody. But I think also if people are willing to kind of accept that people do wear leather shoes, leather jackets, or anything else made from kind of animal products, byproducts, then they kind of should be open to other animal art forms. But basically, you can either stuff it with a number of things. You can use wood shavings or wood wool, which is basically kind of like metal wire but wood, and you can roll it into like sausage forms and stuff it inside. For this particular art, I used teddy bear stuffing to stuff the body and Sculpey clay for the head, so the head would stay solid. And the coating of borax has been laid on the under its flesh, so that nothing can kind of penetrate the skin, and it's set hard, and this is what you end up with.
Would you ever taxidermy one of your pets?
I guess it depends what sort of an emotional connection I have had to the animal. So I would never ever do one of my dogs because I couldn't bear to kind of look at it every day and know that I wasn't ever gonna get to play with him again. But whereas if it was one of my birds, I guess one of the peacocks or chickens, I would be able to because I didn't have kind of an emotional connection to it. I would consider doing other animals that had belonged to other people's pets, because I also didn't know them as a animal.
Now I'm about to meet a man called Roy Taylor, who was involved in animal rights activism, so that I can ask him about his opinions on taxidermy. Can you please introduce yourself and explain your role in animal rights activism?
Sure. My name's Roy Taylor and I'm an animal rights vegan activist. And my projects involve a number of things. I help to organise the National Animal Activists Meeting. I'm also involved in a radio show about animal advocacy. Now, how does that impinge on taxidermy? Well, if the animals are already dead, then clearly they have no direct interests. So we would think that the animal rights movement doesn't have a position on that. However, we have to look beyond and see what really is going on in this society. We live in a society, the human society on Earth, that kills 20 billion animals every year for little more than our own entertainment. And when I say entertainment, I mean and I include the sense of taste as a form of entertainment. There is no nutritional reason to eat milk, eggs, meat, or any other animal product. So essentially, when we use animals for those purposes, that is for entertainment. So we live in a society where animals, non-human animals, are objectified, commodified, turned into a saleable commodity for our own purposes. And to us, that is a form of discrimination, because we wouldn't want to be commodified or objectified for commercial profit. But that's exactly what happens to non-human animals. Well, how does this impinge on taxidermy? Well, if one lives in a society where a large number, or even a small number of that society, are traditionally discriminated against, and indeed turned into a saleable commodity, we have to ask with all our actions, does that perpetuate ongoing discrimination? Now, there is nothing inherently wrong with using the dead body of a human or a non-human, as long as no one else is grieving about that. However, if the usage of that body perpetuates discrimination and objectification, then perhaps the impact is on society. The impact is not necessarily on the animal itself, but it's what it perpetuates within human society. And this is a society which discriminates against non-human animals.
One thing that interests me is the difference between a traditional taxidermist and a rogue taxidermist. And a traditional taxidermist is someone who shoots animals to the point of taxidermy and only mounts the animals they kill as like a trophy. And rogue taxidermists only use animals that die of natural causes, such as roadkill, but they can use their animals as for more artistic means, such as using two animals together in the same taxidermy. Could you give us your thoughts on these two different types of taxidermists?
Sure. Clearly the animal rights movement would be against the former, because that is directly using living creatures, objectifying them through the killing them, and then using their bodies. And of course that involves discrimination, because we are choosing to kill a non-human animal for our purposes when we wouldn't do that to a human. The second one, however, whilst there isn't an immediate act against an animal, the animal's already dead, we have to ask if creating an object out of its body perpetuates a discrimination. Does it perpetuate the objectification and the commodification of animals? The animal rights movement doesn't have a position on that, but what it does do is ask all of us to consider if it's appropriate to do that.
So, after hearing two quite different perspectives, the issue of taxidermy remains pretty complicated. Personally, I'd never have the stomach to do it myself, and I wouldn't want any of my pets turned to taxidermy. I also can't support the act of killing animals for taxidermy. If an animal has died of natural causes, however, then maybe there is some beauty in it. Overall though, despite controversy, taxidermy has existed for many centuries, and I believe will continue to be preserved for many years to come, but hopefully won't be experienced anytime soon by this little guy here.